Podcasting from Astrolab Studios, this is Continuum Drag, a weekly podcast where we revisit sci-fi, fantasy, and just plain weird shows that have faded from the collective consciousness and didn't quite make the impact that they intended. This week, Westworld, Episode 5.
Running out of intuition. That debate starts in a few hours and we still haven't any idea who that robot is.
And I'm climbing up a wall. Why would Quaid want to kill the governor? What could he possibly gain? The other candidate isn't one of his men.
Well, when you're climbing up that wall, would you try and figure out why Quaid hasn't made another move against Nicholson?
I'm straight on that. He was trying to mislead us, turn us towards Nicholson while he went another way.
Maybe.
You know, I'm getting worried.
Why?
Because I've never seen you worried like this before.
Welcome to Continuum Drag and our final Beyond Westworld podcast. I'm Luke with my steadfast companion Jordan.
Oh, I like that.
How you doing, Jordan?
Pretty good. I'm very happy that we're done Beyond Westworld. It seems that at both the same time that we've spent a long time on it, and also that it went by very quickly.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Do
you know what it is? This has been fast, us talking about it, but actually watching the episodes
dragged on for
they
weeks.
just drags on and on and on. It seems like each episode is about 3 hours long.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to disagree. They're pretty bad.
Yeah. So you'll really want to listen to this?
Just keep staying on for more Beyond Westworld.
Yeah.
All right, Jordan. You want to play a game?
Yeah, of course.
I didn't make it up.
Always.
You made the game, not me.
That's true. So this is a little thing we played with Tech War, and I thought it'd be fun to try again and maybe tweak a little bit. So I've called it something slightly different. Kiss gently on a mission, start a committed relationship, or shoot them out of a submarine.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, so the first one is pretty easy. We got your classic John Moore, Simon Quaid, and a little just weird third one, Joseph Oppenheimer. So those are the three.
The three male leads.
Yeah, the three male leads. You got your classic leading man, your villain, and old bow tie.
Great.
He wears bow ties. I don't know if we've mentioned it. He wears bow ties in every episode.
Oppenheimer?
Yeah, every single episode he wears a bow tie.
I haven't even noticed.
Yeah.
I am going to kiss gently on a mission, Oppenheimer. Mm-hmm. Start a committed relationship with Quaid, and shoot John Moore out of a submarine.
I could not agree more. I picked the exact same.
Quaid has ambition. You want that in a long-term relationship. Someone who's going to strive to do better.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a job, and he still seems to have enough finances to keep these robots going. So he's doing something right.
Yeah, he's got his shit together.
And John's a weenie. Let's get rid of him. Shoot him out.
John's the worst. Just throw him out at that. And I mean, Oppenheimer.
We don't. You learn in 5 episodes. We've learned literally nothing about the character. There's been no character development, almost no screen time. So who knows what he's like? We don't know anything. So sure, let's start with
sexy.
him.
Mystery. The mystery of him.
Well, I don't know about
sexy.
that, but sure. So that's the first one. So round 2 is new people. Laura Garvey,
who we remember from the first episode before she was
her replacement.
cast.
Her replacement Pamela Williams, and just to throw something else in there, Ruth Avery from the music episode.
Oh,
yeah,
that's a fun one.
Yeah, what do you think?
Kissing gently on a mission. I'm gonna go with Pam. Start a committed relationship. I'm gonna go with Ruth. Mm-hmm. And sorry, Garvey, you're getting shot out of a submarine.
See, I knew it was gonna happen. We disagree. I think I would kiss Pamela. I think I'm gonna go in a relationship with Laura. I felt bad for her, and I think maybe that she had a lot more to offer than the show gave her. And I'm shooting Ruth out of the submarine because she really annoyed me with all the singing. Back to Nashville with you.
I am not surprised. I know the singing bothered you a lot. She's so meek, though. What more could you want in a relationship?
Well, she can sing all the way out into the water. That's enough of her.
Although, big surprise, you picked Laura to be in a relationship with.
Yeah, all right. So round 3. I started realizing I'm running out of characters already because there's really very few characters. I don't even know their name. The submarine captain, he's one. The sunglasses band member, or the old football quarterback.
So we're just choosing between robots now.
All
three of those were robots.
All three of those robots. You know what's funny? I didn't even think of that. I just thought of characters. Yeah, you're right. So you're picking between robots. So, I mean, there's some issues there.
Which will be my favorite robot?
Decision.
Oh, who to choose? I am going to kiss gently on a mission the submarine captain.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to commit into a relationship with the football player, and I'm going to shoot out of the submarine the guy with the dumb sunglasses.
Again, slight variance. I would. I think I'm gonna kiss the football player. There's no real reason, really. I'm going to start a relationship with the submarine captain. I think we'd give each other enough space. You know, he's often under the water for a while, and things will be nice when he comes back. And I'm sending that sunglasses guy out because he's got a nuclear weapon in him. I don't want that one around me.
No, it was just because the sunglasses. I'm fine with the nuclear weapon.
It's just the sunglasses are worse. And then lastly, just for fun, John Moore's back on this round. John Moore, Jake Cardigan, or Questor. Our leads of our last three things.
Oh, good three.
Mm-hmm. Because if I remember correctly, last time we played this, Jake really got the shaft over and over. So I'm kind of curious to see if you think he's been redeemed a little bit.
He really did. I mean, he has been redeemed. I'm going to kiss him on a mission. Jake Cardigan gets kissed on a mission.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, long-term relationship with Questor because, I mean, he's a fully functional robot. You know what I mean. Wink.
Yeah, we all know what you mean. You want to have sex with Questor. You don't need to wink. You love to have hot, passionate lovemaking with Questor.
It is lovemaking. Don't cheapen it. And obviously, I'm going to shoot Moore out of a submarine because he's the worst.
I agree with you. I agree wholeheartedly. I can't believe it. I would rather spend time with Jake Cardigan than John Moore. Anyway, that's our fun little game. That took a lot of effort, let me tell you.
Yeah, all day.
Yeah, all day to put that together.
All right. Before we get into the episode, actually, I just wanted to do a quick little recap here. Not really a recap, but what were your highlights of Beyond Westworld? I know it was a tough one, but what was a highlight for you?
I'm going to tell you a weird highlight. This is actually a highlight that connects to the other things that we watched, was that there's a weird Star Trek connection with this show, as well as the other two that we watched, which is a lot of weird Star Trek casts show up. So far, and correct me if I'm wrong, I count 5 Star Trek cast members that have shown up. You got Tech War Kirk, show obviously. Dax are both in Tech War. In Questor, Chekhov is there.
Yep.
And in Beyond Westworld, Odo, and then, spoiler for this episode, Sulu.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
That's 5 cast members. So that was a highlight, which doesn't say much about Beyond Westworld. I mean, I do like the over-reliance on mannequins and throwing mannequins off of buildings and stuff on this show. That's funny, but I think one of the major problems with Westworld is that it's not really fun, and it's not terribly entertaining.
We're not doing lowlights yet.
Oh, we're not doing lowlights. Anyways, positives. I liked when the robot fell and the tape came out of their chest. That's about it.
Honestly, that's my highlight too. When that robot hits the ground and her robot its chest explodes.
There's also, I mean, there's the part where the one captain takes his eyeballs out. That was funny.
Oh, that was good. I forgot about that.
There's a great reaction shot where the guy with the sunglasses puts the nuclear bomb in him, and then his friend realizes, and he's like, oh, and there's a big zoom in. That's funny. Like, there's a few of those moments, maybe one an episode, but I don't know. Those are my highlights.
I know you have a lot of lowlights, so I'm not going to really get into them.
Yeah.
But I do, because you've been saying this for 2 episodes. Probably you'll say it again this episode. And I just want to get into it. Your biggest complaint I've heard so far is that there aren't robots in this series about robots, but every episode there are robots. I'm just kind of curious what you've meant by your complaint. There aren't robots.
Well, I think it's how the robots are used. There's almost invariably there's one robot. They have to discover who the robot is, right?
Yeah.
But you never actually, very rarely see them do robot things. Or, I mean, it never needs to be a robot. It could just be, the show could just be, who's the Russian spy?
What would the robot need to do?
Something science fiction-y. I don't know. Just something fun. I just want to do you don't learn anything about the robots. You don't Not that we need to get into a whole thing about like, do they have a soul or whatever, which is like one of the problems with the current Westworld show. They never stop with that. But I don't know. I just thought for a science fiction-y show, there's very little science fiction-y stuff that happens. It's a lot of John running around going, oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. But like, it's just lame 1980s actors wearing leisure suits and then eventually they'll take an eyeball out. I don't know. That's maybe not the most articulate way of explaining it.
No, it's fine. I was just curious because almost every episode you're like,
there's not enough robots. I know.
Not enough robots.
Well, I feel like I'm watching the episode and it just goes on and on. I'm like, can someone just like open their chest and let me see their circuitry? Like it happens once in a while, but just not enough, I think. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
You want more robot insights.
Yeah, I want people's skin coming off and I can see their robots. That's what I'm looking for.
Well, fair enough. In that case, let's move on into the final episode.
Okay.
See if this got any better for you.
It didn't.
Beyond Westworld, Episode 5, Takeover. Moore and his team discover that one of Quaid's androids is posing as a police officer in the governor's security detail.
I would sum this episode up as another Beyond Westworld episode. Wouldn't you? If you like Beyond Westworld, this is another one. If you don't like it, it's another one.
You get more of what you like.
Yeah, you get more of what you like or more of what you don't like. That's pretty much it.
This, I realized when I was taking down the synopsis to read from IMDb, I realized in almost all of them, they refer to Quaid's androids. They're always referring to them as androids in the synopsis.
But they call them robots in the show, don't they?
They exclusively call them robots in the show. So whoever's written these has editorialized them to call them androids, which I thought is very funny for some reason.
I'm going to say something crazy, but what is the specific difference in the definition between an android and a robot?
You know, I don't know. My assumption would be humanoid robot.
Right. So now my question is C-3PO an android or a robot? Because I thought he was a robot. But it's like, now R2-D2 is clearly a robot, right?
Oh, so C-3PO, android. I'm going to go out there and say it.
I would think so too, because he has limbs. He has the appearance of a human. Sorry. If I'm wrong, please feel free to disagree with me, people. But I think that's maybe the difference. Questor, android.
Controversial.
Yeah, controversial topics.
No, yeah, I just thought it was really funny that someone wanted to correct
I'm
that.
sure there's a definition we can look up, but I also don't want to do that. So
It's fine. All right, you want to get into this episode?
yeah.
So it starts in a really kind of weird way. You're at a police station
Yeah.
where one of the police, who you'll never meet, this police officer, has been suspended for killing a protester.
Mm-hmm. I assumed it was killing one of the protesters in that episode where the band was playing.
Oh, yeah, maybe. A little synergy there,
Yeah.
the crossover between the episodes. But we will stay almost exclusively with the police squad who this man was suspended from, who wholeheartedly defends his right to murder that protester.
Yeah, it is weird. Weird because one, you never meet that police officer, which you think would be a plot point that you meet, but it does. It's just he's off there in the distance, and also
He was suspended. You'll never see.
I mean, there's a couple of things about it. One, I don't know if this is how press conferences were done before, but there was something very weird about a reporter just in the police station talking to police officers, just putting the mic in their mouth, or in front of their face, and them just giving sound bites. Like, it just seemed weird. And the second thing was, I was desperate for the group to be the group from Police Academy, because I thought that would be just the weirdest thing ever. Like, the one guy's making funny noises and stuff, and they're like, did my pants just rip? And then they're all laughing, you know. But it wasn't. It was because they sort of look like that. They sort of look like a weird motley group. So, and I thought,
I mean,
it'd
they
be
had
funny.
that look of like an 80s, 70s police squad, which was like kind of ramshackle.
Yeah, and anyways, it would have been funny if it was a crossover, but alas, it is not.
Well, when you reboot it, you can
Yeah.
figure that out. The captain of the squad, Nicholson, after this press conference where they talk about the suspended police officer, he heads home, and for some reason, Quaid has a robot attack him outside of his home.
Yeah.
They get in a bit of a struggle.
The great scene, though.
Captain pops the robot's eye out of its socket.
Yeah, that was great. It was hilarious.
It was very funny. They just cut to an eye flying through the air and landing on the ground.
Yeah.
And then
And then the guy's eye looked terrible after, because they like had that one shot of him without his eyeball on, and it just looked like they put like a little black piece of tape on the guy's eyelid.
oh yeah, well, they only had so much special effects budget.
Yeah. They had to pay for a bunch more mannequins.
In In the struggle, though, the captain his head is injured and he's rushed to the hospital.
Yeah, didn't that seem, by the way, like to go way overboard? He had like the most minor scratch on his head. And they're like, he's got to go to the hospital. And he's like, and we see him later, he's in the hospital room, like he's there for a while. It's like, for a tiny little head bump?
Well, I mean, he's brought in and a neurosurgeon is working on him. And it is George Takei.
Yeah, Sulu.
Not Captain Sulu.
No, he becomes Captain Sulu in the movies.
Oh, there you go. Mr. Sulu, he's a doctor, though. And he's installing a chip into the captain's head because he's a robot.
Yeah, but there's a weird thing, though, in this scene. Because I actually thought, oh, this is one of the first times we see a robot right off the bat. But then the weird thing about it was Sulu is the robot, but the POV shot is of someone watching him. So I was like, wait, is the nurse the robot?
I initially caught that, too. I think they're both robots.
Oh, they're both robots. Okay, that makes... So... But you don't need to worry about it because that nurse will never show up ever again.
Yeah, I mean, Sulu will
He has one other
barely
scene.
show up again.
Yeah, there's no reason for him to be a robot. Well, again, why is he even a robot? Only robots could do the surgery?
Moore's taking
Because-
Quaid's taken more control over things. He's not relying on a single robot to get the job done anymore. He's now putting the whole army into effect.
Yeah, I guess.
At least in this plot, anyway.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. Mm-hmm. And I guess maybe it just speaks to what Star Trek was, but it's just really weird. Like today, if George Takei showed up in your show, it's going to be a huge cameo.
Yeah.
In this, he has basically got the role of a guy who like just showed up in Hollywood. He gets 2 lines. He's very excited to do it, but like he's already done Star Trek.
I think it was a different time, and I don't think being on Star Trek particularly helped all these people's careers because like, with the exception of William Shatner, were any of them in anything else really? Not really.
Yeah, it's so funny because it is.
You're right. It's like it's not a cameo. It's just a small sort of thankless role that he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's
2
like
scenes.
Maybe paid 2 months of rent, if that.
Yeah, right.
I just felt like
Not the way he spends.
Poor George Takei, he's struggling right now.
Yeah. No, things got better for him.
It did. No, things are great. He's a real celebrity now.
Yeah. Not in 1980.
I guess it was because it was before Twitter, so he didn't have that following yet.
Yeah. So the reason Quaid is putting like a little node or whatever
He's
you call
putting
it,
a chip in
a little
his
chip
head.
in the person's head because he wants to now control humans. Now, the weird thing about this, and we can talk about this more later, is he essentially wants to turn humans into robots. The same sort of way he can control them. It doesn't really explain how he can see through their eyes and hear what they're saying and all this sort of stuff because they show that. But what I didn't get is, I don't know how this is any better than having a robot. The robots look like humans. They act like humans. You can control them. Everything's exactly the same. So why even bother adding this extra bit of technology?
It's a weird mind control thing. But I mean, I theorized it was so he had a way that John wouldn't be able to test for robots, but John doesn't know how to test for robots anyway, so it's
Right.
Like
Well, they're always trying to triangulate the signal. Every episode, they're trying to triangulate a signal.
well, and the signal still goes to the chip, so that doesn't help them
Yeah.
either. It doesn't fix that problem.
Yeah.
My question about his plan was when he sent the robot to attack the captain, was it always just to like bonk him on the head so he had to go to the hospital? Or was he planning to kill him and replace him with a robot? And when that didn't work, he's like, oh, let's try this chip out.
No, I think the plan was that he was always going to bonk him on the head, which I know is very specific. Maybe it was just injure him anyway. You could stick the chip anywhere, maybe. You could put it like on his big toe.
If he had stubbed his toe in the fight.
Exactly.
From that fight, though, the eye ends up back at Delos. The first time they've ever had actual evidence that a robot was involved in something.
Well, no, that's not true. They had the Pam bot. They tried figuring the tape with.
Oh, no, I mean the thing that brought them to the crime.
Oh, yes. Oh, that is true. Yes, you're right. Other than John just going, these French fries are a little bit saltier. I think there's a robot in the kitchen. Like that's his deductive reasoning.
Yeah, this time they actually found a part of a robot.
Yeah, and they go on about this eyeball forever. I stopped paying attention immediately. They showed like the same shot of this eyeball chart on the wall, and they just kept talking about how great this eyeball is. And I'm like, okay, get it, move on.
They're blown away. The eyeball has been upgraded by Quaid since it was at Westworld.
Yeah.
And I believe they say it's as powerful as a telephone cable.
Yeah, they do say that.
And a telephone cable can handle thousands of calls.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess so can that eyeball.
Yeah, the eyeball is so technologically advanced. It's as advanced as a telephone.
Yeah. It still makes this noise when it's recording, like you're like, oh yeah, that's robot vision.
Because of this, they're worried the captain was replaced by a robot, so they rush off to the hospital. Pam puts on a fake wig.
Oh, it was a bad wig too.
Yeah, it was a very bad wig. And what I thought was a huge coup for them at Delos, they asked to take his blood as part of the hospital. They were pretending to be a nurse to take his blood. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, finally, you thought that was a great way to figure out if he's a robot. Like, you should have been doing this all along.
Can I jump in with one thing that we jumped over? There was one part where they were talking about the robot that attacked the cop, and they had a funny line, and John said, that sounds like it was a maximum strength robot. And I thought, a maximum strength? I'm like, is there... I liked thinking that the robots were ranked like you would do like an Advil. Like there's regular strength, extra strength, maximum strength. I was like, well, I think all the robots are probably maximum strength, right? It was just such a dumb, weird line. And I was like, oh.
We're just learning all the secrets of these robots. Now we know they all have one weakness.
There's different strengths.
We have different strengths.
Yeah.
Some of them, their eyes are bad.
Yeah.
I don't know if we know anything.
There's been
else about
two of them
robots.
that have had bad eyes. That's really weird.
Magnetic tapes. See, it's
Yeah.
all part of the mythology, the world building of
yeah.
Beyond Westworld.
Yeah. Yeah, you feel like you're in the world. Anyway, so Pam she takes blood, but you're right. That is the first time they've done something other than just try to triangulate the signal. Is what if we just start testing for robots?
They suspect he's a robot. They put on the guise of a nurse. They take his blood. They know he's not a robot.
What are the legal ramifications, though? Because in this episode, we're going to, a little spoiler, John dresses up like a cop. She dresses up like a nurse. Is Delos just allowed to do whatever they want? Because that's fraud, isn't it?
Yeah, no, they're above the law. That was how the whole first episode started.
Yeah, but it just seems, I don't know.
I mean, it's a bad idea.
That's what I mean. It's a bad idea.
Now that they know he's not a robot, John, for the first time ever, maybe not the first time ever, John comes clean with the captain. He's just like, I'm this robot hunter. You were attacked by a robot. I think that means there's something wrong on the force.
Yeah.
The captain's job, his squad's job, is they protect dignitaries when they come through town.
Was that what they were? I didn't quite understand why they were always going around together.
Yeah, their job, I guess, was to protect people when they come, important people when they come to town. They're getting prepped for the governor's coming through town. He's got a debate. He's up for election.
Yeah.
That's what's coming next. So John's like, it's gotta have something to do with the governor coming to town. And he asks if he can join the squad.
Yeah. Which, let me just say, I know this is sort of a plot you've probably seen in a bunch of things, movies and TV, where someone is undercover and stuff. But the weird thing is, the group that he joins, they're very suspicious of him because he's replacing this cop that you never see again. That's off the group because he's
got
killed
a
someone.
suspension. Yeah.
So that's who's John replacing. So they're always kind of testing him, and they don't really know how they feel about him. He's an outsider into their group. But if I just tomorrow had to pretend to be a police officer, I wouldn't know what I was doing. I wouldn't know where to go, what paperwork is, who's in charge of what. And I know that's not what the show is, and that would be a weird thing to spend a lot of time of him being confused and he doesn't know where the washroom is. But they keep doing a thing where no matter what John does, he's an expert. Oh, I can fix a race car. I can be a cop. I know how to operate a submarine. It's like, give me a break. I don't know. It just seems like a weird thing, and it's just because they have to have him in every major thing while Pam's off into the corner not doing anything.
Yeah, he's the jack of all trades who can do anything, and everyone else is barely a character.
That was a much more succinct way of saying what I said. Much, much better.
I do though, because as soon as you said, the squad immediately hates him. The first shot we get is he's pulling up on his cop motorcycle, and they cut him off and knock him off the motorcycle, and then start just bad-mouthing him and saying he's internal affairs. And I'm like, oh, I like this episode already. They hate John so much.
I assume they had watched previous episodes of Beyond Westworld. That's why they hated him so much.
There was so much animosity, and it stays the whole episode. It's everyone just hates John.
Yeah, the cops, that was one of the better things, is it did at least give the sense of the cops had a very internalized group, and they didn't want outsiders, which I think is probably pretty true of a cop. If you just suddenly, someone comes in, it's like, no, we have a group where we protect each other. And
I just like that I had people I empathize with the show because they hate John and I hate John.
Yeah, right.
We get along. Because they protect the dignitaries and their governor's coming to town, their first gig basically is they have to go to this auditorium where the debate's happening, and they're, I guess, scouting it out to see if there's any hidden traps for the governor. It's not like, I guess, I don't know what they're doing there. They're basically securing the location, the squad.
It's funny because when that scene happened, I was like, why are they there? I didn't even catch that the thing with the governor was happening because I was just, maybe I wasn't paying attention. I was like, and now they're looking at they're in a theater or an auditorium. What is happening? And anyways, it just seems like there's scenes after scenes and they don't really aren't that connected.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but
also my attention.
Your attention span might be part of the problem.
Yeah, it might be. There's a scene right before this where Quaid talks about how, like, Quaid has the robot, so he can see what's happening, and he sees John is on the team. And in typical Quaid fashion, instead of alerting everyone else that he's not a real cop, he's like, let's just see how this plays out. And I'm like, Quaid, you do this every time. It's like, why let it play out? Kill him. You could have the cop, like, kill him without having any, just pretending it was some sort of accident or something. But he's like, no, let's see how this works. Let's see how he does.
He needs to know what John's up to.
They always have to have this, like, the lamest mental chess match happening every episode. And it's like, no one cares. And it's not impressive and it's boring.
I guess that's kind of what it is. They're like this battle of wills, but their wills are very, like, stupid.
Yeah, it's just not interesting. It's like, oh, these two, how could you find two greater champions fighting each other? And it's like, one's like an old guy who never gets out of his caravan, and John's apparently a lame jack of all trades. Ooh, well, who cares who wins? More robots, am I right?
You just want the robots to win.
I just want robots to win, and then, like, open their chest, and I'd be like, oh, look at all those cables. That's all I want. Blinking lights.
At this auditorium, John is he's obviously looking for robots while everyone else is looking for threats to the governor. So he climbs up to the catwalk and he's inspecting like a stage light above the catwalk for a very long time. He just stares at this light. You can see the actor like working really hard to like seem engaged of looking at just the stage light. It's at this point that Quaid decides to like test his chip.
Yeah.
So he calls into the captain and he's like, kill John Moore. Such a blunt instrument. Anytime it's just like, just kill him. I don't care how, just robot.
Yeah. Well, it's also a weird kind of blind spot in this show, which is the robots are supposed to be these great impervious things, but they really are shown to just kind of work like remote control cars. He always has to tell them what to do, like all the time. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it'd be like, walk right, now turn left, open the door. Like, it seems like he has to watch them and push the action constantly. And I was like, why can't you just have these robots? Like, couldn't you have earlier said, when you get a chance, kill John? But it's like, he has to be like, now's the time. Push him, grab him. And it's like,
Yeah, it is always the most blunt force. He's never a plan behind it. Just like, I don't know, just go kill him.
Yeah. So, big surprise. There's a big light right above John. I wonder what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, he climbs up to the captain climbs up to an even higher catwalk. And while John is inspecting his light, worried that it might fall into the governor, the captain starts undoing a light above John.
But he's fighting it the whole time. His moral compass is fighting the chip.
His human brain is fighting the chip. He's not sure if he can do it, but the
guy's really got to act because he's really got to show that. Yeah, I'm fighting it.
He's got to struggle physically, so we know his emotional struggle.
Yeah, it's a very constipated sort of look at all times.
I gotta say though, what a classic gag! Dropping a light on someone.
Yeah, I know. He's like, be like Bugs Bunny as much as possible.
It's about to happen. He's about to do it, and then in walks Pam, pretending to be a reporter. Suddenly,
yeah,
she looks up and she shouts, "John, look out!" And John like jumps out of the way of this light just the last second.
And I think this might be, and correct me if I'm wrong, this might be the only time Pam has ever been useful in the show. Is this it? I think this was it.
I want to say no, but I'm not coming up with an example off the top of my head.
Yeah. She's never been useful before. That's not the character's fault. They've never had her do anything.
I'm really struggling. I am trying to think of something she's done, and it's not coming to me.
Yeah. Let's just leave it at she's never done anything useful except for go, hey, there's a light.
What I liked, though, is she can clearly, from the shot, the way it's shot, she can see the captain dropping the light on him.
Yeah.
But no one ever confronts him. They're like, oh, what a weird accident that happened.
Well, yeah, no, they go, what happened? And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. I must have accidentally touched it or whatever. It's like, there's no way you accidentally did that. But yeah, it doesn't really matter. Look over there.
But this basically starts off, what will happen a few times over the episode, is Quaid testing the captain's chip.
Mm-hmm.
The next time we see it, the captain's gone home. He's hanging out with his wife.
It's my favorite scene of the episode.
and we learn he's got 2 foster kids. The adoption agency's there. They're adopting them. They've brought the paperwork to do the adoption. And Quaid decides this is a great time to test his chip by fucking him over and ruining the adoption.
Yeah. But what I like, the adoption, it's all ready to go. All he needs to do is sign his name.
He just has to sign the paper.
And Quaid's like, what if we have not signed his name?
Like, it's
So him and the professor, because the professor from Gilligan's Island is back, who's now apparently like his right-hand man. He's never been there before. But they have to keep giving whatever. It's increasing the intensity so he can't fight it. And then he just like freaks out and doesn't sign his papers. He's like, I don't even know if I want kids. And I was like, shouldn't he have had to tell him what to say? They never really explained how the chip works. They increase the intensity and then he does the opposite of what he normally would do. Is that how it works? It's not like he's more susceptible to commands or anything. They just up the intensity and then suddenly he doesn't want to sign the papers anymore.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know how they give him the suggestion of what he wants to do. You're right. They just turn a dial.
And that's it.
And then, I guess he just does the opposite of what he wanted to. Because, he just refuses to sign the papers.
Yeah, so if like he was going to go, he's like, I really got to go pee. And they're like, turn up the intensity. He's like, I don't want to pee anymore. That's about it, I guess. That's how it works. That's a great example, by the way.
That's a good example.
That would have been as interesting a scene as most of them in Beyond Westworld. Watching a guy decide should he or should he not urinate.
It is a fun. I like when the scene ends because the adoption lady leaves and they're gonna rethink whether they should have the kids. Like, Quaid really ruins this man's life.
Yeah.
And his wife asks him. She's like truly confused. She's like, "What's wrong?" And he just like yells, "I don't know."
Yeah. Well,
And
that
it's
was all
true.
the answer she needed.
He doesn't know. He has no idea what's going on.
Yeah. Well, like what I would assume at this point is I would, if I was him, immediately go to the doctor and say, I have some mental issues, which he kind of does.
He does. He goes to see Sulu again. And Sulu's like, don't worry about it. As your robot doctor.
As your robot doctor, everything seems fine.
Everything seems okie dokie.
Yeah.
He kind of just advises him just to go with it. It'll work out.
Yeah.
And there's really one more example before we get to the finale where he's in front of the press and they're asking him questions and Quaid turns the dial again. And I guess you're right. It's the opposite of what he wants to say because he gets the captain to forgive the suspended cop. Like he gets him to be like, I'm removing his suspension. He did nothing wrong shooting that protester right in the face.
And so all the cops are happy with it because their friend is going to be a cop again. But clearly he was in the wrong. So it's like,
Well, I mean, obviously if the opposite of what his captain wants to do is let him back, the cop obviously did something wrong.
Yeah.
It's great though, because as we watch this, Quaid's getting more and more excited about this chip he's got. And he even says at some point that this chip is the ultimate expression of technology, a human robot.
Yeah. But he already has human robots.
It's such a weird, I know, he has so many robots. This thing that kind of works.
Well, here's the thing, and we can get back to the episode shortly, but it's a cool idea, but it doesn't make sense because he already has the robots. It's like, just use them better. He's just been using them in a dumb way. Like, I'll just send one robot out. It's like, send 50 of them with guns. You can't beat them. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many different things he could do, and he always does the same thing. Like, if I get this guy to go to medical school for 4 years, and then the robot will meet someone else who will be human, but then I'll replace that human with a robot, and then eventually that person will become something. It's like, just use a robot to kill someone or do something. But this technology is worse than the robot because they have to keep fighting the person's moral compass or fighting their normal intentions. So it's like, the robots don't do that. So why is this a better technology? It's a much, much worse technology.
Yeah, he has to monitor them 24/7 to make it work. It's very funny that this is what he's committed to in this episode.
It's the writers came up with an interesting idea, but they should have stopped at page 1 and said, no, this doesn't work.
In the context of the show, it's never going to work.
Yeah, it's never going to work.
We'll go back to the episode now. Not that's super great because the episode is now John and Pam wandering around trying to figure out who the robot is.
Yeah.
I do like, though, Pam embeds herself as a reporter with the police department.
There's a that was funny because there's a couple scenes with it, which is Pam at one point, John actually has an honest thing. I don't know if it happens here, and you might have to correct me, but they're in a hotel room, and John's got one thing is the largest newspaper I've ever seen. It takes up like the entire bed, and he says like, I just don't even know what to do now. I don't know how to find this robot. And she basically says, well, I really can't talk about this. I'm busy because I have to write my article. And I was like, oh, she's really getting into this character. She's actually writing the article to apparently
for her fake reporter
for her
persona.
fake reporter position at the fake newspaper. I'm like, why are you writing the article? And then later, she actually has to do an interview with a cop, and for whatever reason, they have the interview down by a pool. And
Well, these are all interrelated, actually.
Yeah, okay.
These all make sense together.
do they?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, maybe you should take it then, because I'm just like, what is happening? But why is she so dedicated to this position?
They need her to be a reporter because Moore's already embedded. So now they need some reason for Pam to also be there. So she's coming and she tells the cops she's going to write a very complimentary article about them because that reporter had it, or that protester had it coming. So she's there. That's why the cops are like, oh yeah, then you can hang out with us because you're not fake news.
Right.
So now that both of them, they're there on the squad, they're like, how do we figure out who the robot is? The first thing they do is go to this actually very cool firing range.
That was good.
It's
But
like-
there's a funny scene right after it.
It's kind of, I mean, the technology's outdated, but the idea of it is still very cool. Like, I would do this today.
It's sort
if
of
it
a
existed.
kind of almost virtual reality thing where there's a screen and you're in a real life situation and you shoot the screen with, what do they say, like plastic bullets or something like
wax
that?
bullets.
Wax
They-
bullets.
Yeah, they have like a video reenactment of like a heist, some sort of convenience store robbery. And the police-
Which, by the way, police actually do.
Yeah. And the police are supposed to come in with wax bullets, and then they shoot at the screen, which has a sensor board behind it, and it evaluates their responses of like where the bullets hit and what happened, and is able to tell them how well they're doing.
And of course, John does it, and they're like, "Ooh, you're perfect." I was
Yeah,
like, "Ugh."
he's the
Of course he
perfect
is.
shot at everything. Which I was like, that's a fun technology. I would do that. That'd be a lot of fun. The reason this is useful to Pam and John is because they'll be able to figure out who the robot is on the police force because, and this is good robot mythology for you,
Yeah.
the robot's vision is based on heat and it can't track motion, so it won't be able to do well at this video test because it can't.
I know it's
See
apparently
motion?
the Tyrannosaurus Rex from Jurassic Park. Just can't see motion or whatever it is. But it was one of those things where it's like, okay, well, we haven't ever heard that before in the previous 4 episodes.
It seems like a very bad vision-based system.
Well, again, these robots aren't terribly good. Like for the amount of time they're always worried about the robots, I'm like, they seem to be a million flaws with these things.
It's true. But the next cop who gets up to shoot ruins the whole thing because
But someone has put real bullets in. But when she shoots the screen, like what was she shooting with, a missile? It makes like a 3-foot hole in the screen. I was like, no bullet would do that.
yeah, her
Like it was crazy.
her loaded gun with a real bullet destroys the screen. So Pam and John's plan of figuring out who the robot was is immediately defeated.
And they're like, the professor from Gilligan's Island's like, nice one, Quaid, or he's like checkmate or something like that. And they're all very pleased with themselves before they go to commercial break. I was like, okay.
So they have to move on to their next plan to find the robot, which is Pam writes a real newspaper article.
Right. And what she
Her
go ahead.
plan is there's one cop who wants to read the article. Pam plans to have him meet her at his hotel by the pool.
You know what? I have to say a lot of this does make more sense, and I clearly was not paying attention. Clearly was not.
Well, I mean, this is still an insane plan because her plan is she'll meet him by the pool, and if he tans, he's not a robot. But if he doesn't tan in the sun,
Yeah.
he must be a robot.
I know
So
it is really weird. All their it's just really weird.
It's a very strange plan of like, I'm gonna figure out if he's a robot by watching if he tans.
It's a long time to wait too. Like, is she gonna go meet him later that night? Because sometimes he burn or whatever doesn't show up for a while.
It's a long-term plan, that's for sure.
Yeah.
They go down. He's reading the article. Pam's very frustrated because he chose to sit under an umbrella.
Yeah, and she slowly
Yeah.
starts moving the umbrella off
she
him.
suddenly moves the umbrella off his leg so it's in full sun. At which point, does he scream? He basically gets upset because he's allergic to the sun.
Yeah, not good for a cop. And he's like, ah, and then they show like the most intense blister you could ever possibly get
he
in
gets
2 seconds.
A huge, gross blister on his foot from the sun.
Like he's a vampire that's been in the sun.
Like it's like really pus filled. It's really gross.
And then she's like, let me rub cream on it.
yeah, she feels so bad. She gets down on her hands and knees and rubs cream into the disgusting blister.
Yeah, it's really weird.
And I was like, this is so bad. And then he makes a crack. He's like, maybe I should get blisters all over my body. I'm like, no, it's even worse.
Yeah, I know that's
so
not sexy at
gross.
all. What if, what would you say if my genitals were full of disgusting pus-filled blisters? Oh, stop it. You know? How'd you like that impersonation of Pam? Pretty good?
I mean,
Spot on.
Yeah.
Great.
You nailed it. So yeah, now we've cleared this cop of being a robot in the weirdest possible way.
Yeah, so we got one who, is he the only one who's cleared at
He's
this
the
point?
only one who's cleared right now.
Right.
What's great though is how little this show cares about its own show, because they continue a conversation for a few more minutes and they cut to a wide shot and his leg is still in the sun.
Oh, is it? I didn't notice.
They just cut back, leg's still in the sun. The actor's not bothering to pull it out. They've just done a whole scene with the blister. Like,
That does
don't worry
seem
about
like
that
a sort
anymore.
of Naked Gun-esque sort of joke that, they'd cut back and then his foot would just be on fire or something and they're just continuing the conversation. But the show's not nearly that funny.
Oh, this show does not pay a close enough attention to detail to pull
Yeah.
off a gag. We then move on to actually see, this is interesting, in this search for who the robot might be. We actually, for the first time, see Oppenheimer at Delos, and he has a whole team of people working with him. I don't know where they got this idea from, but they decided to check out and make sure the governor who's coming to town is not a robot.
Right.
So Oppenheimer's talking to 2 or 3 different staff. They're comparing his voice.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
To old speeches to make sure they're the same. And he's talking to all kinds of extras, all kinds of lines, as if there's like a whole staff that's working at Delos. It's the first time they've ever had any organization
Since the first episode.
behind the scenes. Like I was like, this is so weird that now suddenly in the last episode.
Well, it has a similar issue that Tech War had, which is you're like, what is this office like? Like, it's never really clear and it seems inconsistent at best.
Yeah. And in this case, they clear the governor because they're looking at all this. They're looking at all his voice patterns to see if anything's changed in the last few months, if he's become a robot, and everything's coming up negative. So that's a dead end for them.
Yeah.
And they call that into Moore and Pam, which is great because John's sitting in his hotel room bed and he's like, "I'm running out of intuition."
Is that what he said?
Yeah, his whole robot finding plan is based around his intuition as to what or who might be a robot, and he's despairing because he's run out of intuition on this.
I like to think he does that all the time. Like, he's out at dinner and he's like halfway through and he's halfway through his meal and he says, I'm running out of hunger. You know? He wakes up in the morning, he's like, I've run out of tiredness. Anyways, we can keep going.
Thankfully, he's not totally out of intuition because he decides maybe he should look into all these weird mood swings the captain's been having.
Yeah.
At which point he goes to the hospital, and at the hospital they can't find any Dr. Sulu. There never was a Dr. Sulu. He doesn't get suspicious enough to look into it any further. But
Because he's a terrible, terrible detective or whatever he is.
yeah, at least he did enough detective work to ask around about something. He doesn't do anything else.
They should have found that other doctor. Remember that one doctor in the episode who was quite happy to let him just see the old dead body? Remember
That's
that?
true. That guy would have been a lot more helpful.
Yeah, he's fine giving any information you want.
It's at this point that the governor arrives on his way to the debate. The police are there kind of scoping it out. And as the moderator is setting up the debate, he suddenly drops a whole load of exposition on us. Did you heard all this, right?
What? Remind me.
At the beginning of the debate, the moderator gets up before any of it starts, and he starts talking about how the governor 2 years ago was in a car accident that he miraculously recovered from, and now he's on his way to being
Right.
president. He should be president any day now.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, he couldn't possibly be the robot with such coincidences like that.
Yeah.
They really start dropping this, their hints are very, very
Yes.
red flaggy right now.
He's the robot.
Yeah, he's a robot, even though they cleared him already.
They cleared him because
They didn't go back far enough.
Yeah. They just
Which-
didn't check.
Let me ask you, Westworld seemed to have been destroyed 4 weeks ago. So Quaid's been doing up to this plan for a very long time.
He's been putting plans in and failing for quite a long time.
This has been
Westworld was just one of them.
This is a 2-year plan in the making, this governor one.
Yeah.
There's also, it's a really offhanded remark, but some ADR line in the background of someone walking by walks past the stage and they're like, oof, those lights are really, really hot.
Yeah. Well, because that's going to be important later.
gonna be important.
Because these robots are not like humans.
But at this point, I don't think Mel was watching when she walked by, and she's like, oh, is the robot's face going to melt off during the debate? I'm like, oh, that'd be so good if that happened.
No, that's an example of what I would love for robots to happen. That's the stuff I want. I want robots melting and stuff, and you almost never get that in this show.
I She said it. I got my hopes up because I'm like, that would be amazing if during the debate
It's
the robot's
much
revealed
lamer.
by his face melting off.
Yeah.
Sadly, it doesn't happen. But good idea. So at this point, the Quaid starts signaling the robot that he does have on the force. So what we're seeing now is the governor's a robot. He's got a chip in the captain's head, and there's a robot in the police force. He's got all his robots in play right now.
It is the first time in 5 episodes that Quaid has, I think, used more than one robot at a time. Like, it's finally doing something like, okay, this makes sense. You have all these robots. Why always bring out one?
Yeah, I mean, with the doctor and the nurse, that's 5 robots.
Yeah, this show, I'm not complaining this episode. This one at least had a few more robots.
Yeah. Pam and John are able to triangulate the signal to figure out which cop is a robot. And as soon as he does, he steals a garbage truck.
Yeah, this is a great scene.
It's one of those garbage trucks that picks up like dumpsters, so it's got the forklift prongs on it.
Yeah.
And he drives that into the robot, impaling the robot on the prongs.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And then picks it up and like tosses it in the garbage.
And then he lifts it up and dumps it into the trash over his head.
Yeah.
And it's great because at that point they're like, well, our job here is done. They basically wipe their hands. They're like, there's never 2 robots.
Also,
we did it.
That's going to be horrifying for the garbage person who's cleaning that up later. Just seeing a body just laying there, even if it's a robot.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that garbage man that has just seen John steal his truck and drive away.
Fair enough.
He's stole his truck, drove away, drove into a police officer. This garbage man doesn't know there are robots in the world. He just saw a man steal a garbage truck and impale a police officer. That garbage man
seems good to me.
Very confused as to what's happening. They go back into the debate. They're very pleased with themselves. But then their signal detector starts going off, and they're like in shock that there could be a second robot because they're just 2 dummies. They couldn't imagine more than one robot being nearby. It's at this point that Quaid is sending a signal to the captain being like, I need you to shoot the governor.
Yeah.
And we see the captain struggling to pull out his gun, fighting the urge to shoot the governor.
Which, by the way, breaks the rule of what we thought it was. He actually, he doesn't just turn up the intensity and the guy pulls the gun. He actually tells him how to do it. So he apparently can give him commands. He just hasn't up to this point.
Yeah, I guess so. He just wanted to see what happened when he turned the knob.
Yeah.
John catches sight of the captain pulling his gun out, and he's like, oh no, he's going to shoot the governor. So he runs on stage and like grabs the governor and starts dragging him off stage to save his life. At which point Pam
that's great.
starts yelling, no sweat. There's no sweat.
Yeah, John, he's not sweating. Clearly a robot. Clearly robots don't sweat.
They cut to a few close-ups of the moderator and his opponent in the debate. They're both sweating buckets. They're just like drenched in sweat.
Yeah.
And then the governor's not. John is still very confused. So he's like half pulling the governor off. He's like kind of staring at his face, not sure what's going on. By this point, the captain has pulled his gun out, and bad luck for Quaid, he happens to shoot the robot in his one weak spot, the back of his head.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a funny coincidence, though. Did you know my weak spot is getting shot in the back of my head, too?
Yeah. Mine's not. No, it's not. My problem is if you accidentally dip any of my skin in water, instantly break down.
We're all different.
Yeah, we're all different. Any of the other robots, though, if he had shot him in the back of the head, it would have been fine.
It would have been fine.
But this one had that problem.
It was really bad luck for Quaid.
Yeah.
That in his plan to fake an assassination attempt on the governor, that his human robot accidentally shot him in his one weak spot, the back of his head.
Yeah.
This plan was flawed all over the place.
No, I think it was a good plan. Because his plan, and let's just recap. His plan was to get the governor to become a governor so that he eventually would become president so that he could rule the United States. Right? That's his plan?
We'll get into this, I guess, in a second, but John literally recaps everything at the end of the episode.
Yeah. Yeah, because he has to, because you're like, what? What is happening? This plan doesn't make any sense.
I only stop you there because I just want to note this one thing. Nicholson is still under Quaid's control, so John chases after him.
Into the basement?
Into the basement that is full of parade floats and like masks and stuff.
Yeah,
This
I
is
know.
the second series where a confrontation has happened around just giant parade floats in like weird
I
costumes.
know. I was hoping it was the exact same place and that would be the answer. Like, oh, they just people just keep going to this place. It's got great props of like, dinosaurs and stuff. But no, it's just a weird coincidence.
Yeah,
There's another show with this.
It's just like not only is it the same kind of like room, which is weird. The two shows is going to both series finales.
Oh, that's right.
So
Yeah, that is
both
weird.
these shows.
Well, that's you want to end your show with a
that.
bang, You
Yeah,
got
they
you got to
wanna
have
end
floats.
with this weird float sequence, and also like Tech War, John talks the captain out of being brainwashed, much like Jake did. He just tells him like, "Don't be brainwashed anymore."
That's right. Yeah.
He's like, I know Quaid has done something to you, but don't worry about it. Just stop.
I know
being
everything.
Brainwashed.
Everything in the episode to this point says you can't fight the chip, but why don't you just do it? And he's like, yeah, okay.
Like, there's a chip in your head. Just don't listen to it. I know you haven't thought of that yet. You've just been doing whatever it says. But what if I told you? Just don't.
He should have found those guts when he was supposed to sign the adoption paper instead of having those kids sent back to Vietnam or wherever they were from.
Yeah, John, where were you then?
Where were you then?
Once he talks about being brainwashed, we cut back to a absolutely furious Quaid. He's so angry that this chip failed.
He has a great line. Can I say what his line is?
Do you have that line written down? 'Cause
Yeah.
it's amazing.
He says he's kind of almost doing like a soliloquy about all the sort of what's happened, and then he says, the part I wrote down was, I just can't depend on any technology that isn't 100% reliable. I'm like, what?
Oh, you didn't even write down the best line.
Oh, what is it?
Well, he's freaking out. This is what he's like, not only are human beings boring, they also can't be trusted.
That's true. He did say that as well.
I was like, your problem with humans is they're boring?
Yeah. Robots were way better. Way more fun. You ever gone out with a robot on a Friday night? You can't compare to a human.
Humans have the worst taste in everything. They're
Yeah.
so boring. They're
But-
so bourgeois.
But also, he's like, he's complaining that his technology, he only wants perfect technology, so he doesn't want to ever use this mind thing again. I'm like, but so far you're batting zero. The robots have never worked, ever. So, like, you actually love technology that doesn't work very well. He's a liar. Quaid's a liar.
Quaid doesn't know what he wants. He has everything falls apart. He just blames human beings.
Yeah. And then it's pretty much the end of the episode.
He is a human being, and everything goes wrong.
Oh.
He hates himself.
Yeah.
Oh, this show makes a lot of sense now.
It's not very good. Not very good
No,
show.
it's very deep. It's a very thoughtful show.
No, it's not. And that's it. That's the show.
It's the end of the show. It's
End of the series. Like, well, I mean, we can talk, but you can see why the show didn't make it past. Well, I mean, really didn't make it past 3 episodes. It was 5 episodes, but it's not good. Do you want to talk about some final thoughts?
yeah. Let's do a little final thoughts. As you noted with the professor from Gilligan, I read an article because we're not the only people who realized watching Beyond Westworld was good synergy for Westworld being on right now.
Right.
There was an IGN article online where they kind of went into it. They didn't get into it any deeper than we did. Like, it's about the same. But they did note 2 additional cameos, actually,
Oh, really? That we missed?
that we missed. In the sort of footage where they're showing Westworld before it fell apart, the woman who's in some of the footage was Elvira from before she was kind
Oh,
of
really?
Elvira.
I know exactly who it is. Yeah, yeah.
And this is maybe mostly for me. I don't know if you watch this show, but one of the roadies in the band episode was Dirk Blocker, who plays Hitchcock on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, one of the like slovenly detectives on the show.
I never saw the show, but I'll take your word for it.
He's very good on the show, and it was funny to see. Oh, well, this is where he got his start. And I was looking at this episode. I was kind of going through the cast now that I knew there's like, there's all kinds of weird people who are like in background roles, and I think he might be one of the cops in this episode. But apparently, one of the guys in this is the bad guy in all the Karate Kid movies.
Yes.
And then also still in the new YouTube Cobra Kai series.
Yeah, I actually forgot to mention it. Yes, and you can spot him right away because he just has that look. He's the cop with the kind of curly hair and the bum chin.
But yeah, it's not a lot of clothing thoughts. I mean, obviously, we don't need to talk about what a better version of the show would be. I mean, I'd say Lisa Joy and Jonathan Nolan have done a much better job thinking about what a Westworld TV show might be like.
I mean, there's a couple things that I don't know if you feel the same way, but there's some. I don't know if there's similar problems to Tech War, but I think you can. What was something that we're kind of getting here after watching, what is this? 10 things we've watched, 10 episodes of various shows and things. It's almost an intangible thing that's not working on the shows. Whether it's the cast isn't quite right, the writing isn't quite right, or the budget doesn't match the expectations, you can just tell something's not jiving.
Yeah.
And I felt the same way in Tech War, and in kind of a different way in Beyond Westworld.
Well, I think Westworld's problem is they commit to a format that isn't that interesting for the concept.
Yeah.
So they're just hamstrung by the same whodunit, who's the robot every episode. And they have nothing new to say in that world, but they're just like, that's the format.
And the leads aren't, the lead in like both this and Tech War, nothing against either actor, but the leads are just like lame characters. Like, I didn't like either of them. I was just like, oh, I don't care. All the other characters are much more interesting. I'd rather watch Oppenheimer with his bow tie.
Yeah, Pam would be much more interesting to watch too. Like, she seems more competent.
Yeah.
All right, you want to give this last episode a rating?
Oh, what would I give this last episode? I was really bored. I give it I don't know, 4.5.
I'm coming back up for this one. It's coming back to a 5 for me.
Yeah.
So a big turnaround from last week, I'd say.
Yeah, you were giving all ones, weren't you?
It was a low times for me last episode.
Yeah, I think this one was. Weren't you bored out of your mind?
No, I found this far more engaging than the last two.
Oh, well.
You just had Westworld fatigue. This Beyond Westworld fatigue hit you this week.
I think maybe that's what it was. Yeah. Well, but it's over, so who cares?
Yeah, why'd you hate it so much then?
Yeah, I don't know. It just did. But honestly, it was like every 3 minutes I felt like I was stopping the episode to find something else to do. At one point, I literally did dishes because that was more interesting than watching the show.
Well, no wonder you couldn't follow the plot.
Yeah, so that's on me.
All right. With those two ratings, the final series average for Beyond Westworld is 4.65.
So it's actually lower than Tech War.
Yeah, it's lower than Tech War.
I think that's about right. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think Tech War was a better show than Beyond Westworld.
No, without a doubt, it was a better show. If you ask me...
I don't know if it's without a doubt. I think you could have some doubt.
No, without a doubt. If you ask me which I would recommend you watch, Tech World all the way.
We can't. We always already said we would not recommend Tech War. You can't go back on that now.
I think I called it Tech World this time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. Maybe Tech World's just a better name.
Yeah, it just, you want
to be honest, it makes more sense than Tech War. There's no war happening, except for the Brazil War.
Yeah, that's in the past, and now it's a Tech World.
Anyway, do you think there'll be some time in the future where we don't talk about Tech War so much?
I know, I don't.
No,
This is it for the rest of our lives.
So that's Beyond Westworld.
Yeah, so I think we're going to go beyond Westworld now and go to Riverworld.
Yeah.
Which is a mid-2000s TV movie. Yeah. I know nothing about it.
I don't know anything. We're both going in completely blank, so it'll be interesting to see. I don't know anything about it. I'm assuming it has to do with a river and a world. That's all I know about it.
All we know is it makes perfect sense to watch a Riverworld after a Beyond Westworld.
Yeah, that's it. So that's what we'll be watching next week, and it's a one-time, as you called it before, a palate cleanser. Before our next series, but that's what we're watching next time.
Yeah. In the meantime, you can reach us at continuumdrag@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter and Instagram at continuumdrag. Well, Jordan, thanks for joining me. See you next week.
I'll see you next time.
Continuum Drag is recorded at Astrolab Studios in Toronto, Ontario. Theme music by James Ruxedler. Produced by Jordan Delick and Luke Black. Special thanks to Adam Wheatner, Jeff Hanley, Emily Carter, and Dwayne Wright.